this time I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Walsh.
Here.
Commissioner Doherty.
Here.
Commissioner Strack.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Meyer.
Here.
Commissioner Sabota.
Here.
Commissioner Thacker.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to instruct anyone from the audience who would like to speak in the public input portion of the meeting. These would be for non-agenda items tonight. So anything that is not on tonight's agenda, if you'd like to step to the podium to speak. Otherwise, the agenda items will have a public hearing in each one of those items that are on the agenda tonight as well. Seeing no movement, we will move on to number 5 on the agenda, consideration of the approval of the meeting minutes from October 18th. If there are no questions or concerns from the commissioners, I would be looking for a motion to approve.
Motion.
Walsh.
Second.
Ms. Miller on a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meyer.
Here. Oh, yes.
Commissioner Sabota.
Abstain.
Commissioner Thacker.
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh.
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty.
Yes.
Commissioner Strack.
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
The applicant and property owner is Brian Blanchard, 6008 Tomlinson Drive here in McHenry. And the requested action is a conditional use permit for outside storage of recreational vehicles and boats in conjunction with the contractor's office on the subject property. The location of that subject property is 4564 Bull Valley Road, located here in McHenry. I do have the return receipts from the Postal Service along with the affidavit and the public hearing notice from the Northwest Herald. Thank you, Doug. Brian, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Brian Blanchard, 6008 Tomlinson Drive.
Great, thanks so much. Tell us why you're here tonight.
I'm here because basically I've got a property that I don't fully use, and I'm trying to actually start utilizing the entire property instead of just the little tiny section I use for some personal stuff. And I was getting approached for some outside storage, so trying to make sure it all kind of got done correctly.
Excellent, great, thank you so much. Doug, please give us your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Blanchard approached us about getting a conditional use for outside storage for recreational vehicles and boats at 4564 Bull Valley Road. I put some history in the staff report. In 2002, the council had approved a conditional use for a property just east of here at 4172 Bull Valley, and then subsequently amended that conditional use permit to include this property. And that conditional use was expired. The property the applicant is looking at is right across from Sintegra Hospital. It's kind of a flag lot. It's long and thin, and it's got a kind of a pole barn type building in the back, and it goes all the way to the north, and the storage would be outside for the applicant wants to rent for people who have boats, recreational vehicles, need somewhere to put them over the winter or when they're not using them. So in accordance with the zoning ordinance that requires a conditional use permit, the property zoned I-1 industrial. This whole area, this whole quarter section, if you will, is zoned industrial. And it's been kind of a hodgepodge of different uses. There's self-storage around there, Snelton Excavating's around to the east of there as well. There are long-range plans for this area, including the comprehensive plan, which go beyond the scope of this proposal. The hospital, as I stated, is across the road. There have been time limitations placed on the request in the past on conditional use permits. However, staff's not proposing a time limitation. I believe that would be, very limiting to the applicant. The applicant has a viable business concept. There's definitely a need for this type of use in the city. It brings another viable business to the city. McHenry is a recreational community. There was a proposal many years ago for recreational vehicle storage, boat storage over by Illinois State Bank, which never came to fruition. So there's definitely the need for this type of use. The area is somewhat secluded. It's also become a little bit of a dumping ground. The applicants clean the property up. There's some stuff still needs to be done as well. And I think the applicant is intending to improve the property as he continues to hold on to it. There are future roadway improvements that would be done on Bull Valley, I think, going west at some point. I think there were improvements just done. I think those are, more improvements would be done in the future, but none imminent. At this point, staff's recommending approval of the conditional use to allow the outdoor storage of recreational vehicles and boats on the subject property in conjunction with the contractor's office, subject to the conditions that the property be cleared of all debris, including, I don't think there's any inoperable vehicles, trailers, but anything unrelated to what the applicant's proposing as his primary business, which is storage of recreational vehicles and boats. Property keeps neat and orderly appearance. The applicant worked with city staff in locating signage for the business off of Bull Valley Road, not impeding access or sight lines to other businesses. It's kind of a very tight area there on Bull Valley Road. Understanding the applicant needs visibility, needs signage, want this business to be successful, but the signage like Mr. Stump has done very tastefully, so I think other signage there is done tastefully, so it definitely can be done. And minimal security lighting cameras be done. Obviously, the property is somewhat secluded, so that there needs to be some protection for property that's stored there. And staff believe that with the conditions imposed, the criteria table 31 of the zoning ordinance have been satisfied.
Thank you, Ben. At this time, I would like to open questions, concerns to the commissioners.
The question I would have, and I'm sure this is something that you would agree with, would be the security, of course. You are set back. So
Gates locked. If I'm not there, there are cameras on the property.
okay, and lighting.
Yes, I have floodlights on the building, and they light the entire lot.
Okay, okay.
Any other plans for like fencing or anything around it?
No, it's pretty naturally fenced, actually. And that actually alone keeps the property extremely secure. You can't just like drive onto it and take something off of it. Believe it or not, the only time it's easy to get to is with a snowmobile in winter.
So carrying through on that thought, how are you gonna get the vehicles out to the property to store them?
I'm sorry?
How are you gonna get the vehicles out to the property to store them? Is there
There's
a way that goes out?
Yeah, I have the road right there.
I'm
and then
looking at the
that.
picture here and it doesn't show a road.
Oh, I apologize.
No, it's okay.
It's kind of a long, snaky driveway, and actually I own it.
Okay. Gravel?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Miller, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Mr. Doherty, any questions?
When they store a boat, do they put everything in the boat, or is there stuff around the boat? Like, would they leave gas cans or anything like that, or
No,
everything's kind of just
there
like-
should be no gas cans, there should be no anything around the boat.
Okay.
Should be just the boat on a trailer.
Or an RV,
Or-
itself, or
yes.
whatever.
Yes.
So boats, RVs, anything else that you'd like to store out there?
Snowmobile trailers in the summer, cargo and toy haulers too, if you guys are familiar with, it's the same recreational vehicle type trailers.
Great, okay.
Mr. Walsh, any questions? At this time, I'd like to open the public portion of the meeting. Anyone from the gallery who would like to speak on this matter, please approach the podium. Seeing no movement from the gallery, I will close the public portion of the meeting. Additional questions or concerns from the commissioners? If no additional questions, I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the conditional use permit to allow outdoor storage of the recreational vehicles and boats on the subject property in conjunction with the contractor's office, subject to the following conditions. The property should be cleared of all debris, including any inoperable vehicles, trailers, and anything unrelated to the request. Property keeps a neat and orderly appearance so that it doesn't become a nuisance. And the applicant work with the city in regards to signage, as we've already stated, and of course, continue to provide minimal lighting and security cameras on site.
Are you finding all the conditions of table 31 have been met?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Miller. Do I have a second? Mr. Meyer on a second. Additional questions or concerns before we call the roll? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Sabota?
Yes.
Commissioner Thacker?
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh?
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty?
Yes.
Commissioner Stratt?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Excellent. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Doug, be in touch. At this time, I'd like to close file Z917. At this time, I have a conflict for the next public hearing that'll be listed tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Vice Chair Thacker, and he will handle the remaining portion of the meeting for tonight. It's a big chair, Mr. Thacker. I'm sure you can fill it, sir.
I'd like to open file Z918. The applicant, Wayne Jett, 7016 Liam Lane, McHenry, requested action, conditional use permit for an expanded site plan review in accordance with the downtown overlay district to allow a contractor's office with storage on site and 2 principal uses on 1 zoning lot, and any other variances to allow the property to be developed in substantial conformance with the public hearing application submitted for the subject property located at 1306 North Green Street, McHenry. We have the return receipts for the abutting property owners, the sworn affidavit, and the proof of publication from the Northwest Herald. Anyone speaking on behalf would be seated in front of me. Sir, please state your name.
My name is Tom Zank. I'm from 40 Brink Street, Crystal Lake, Illinois.
All right, and obviously you do not need to be sworn in, sir. So please tell us why you're here.
Well, thank you. I'm an attorney that represents a petitioner in this matter, and just preliminarily, the property is 1306 Green Street. I don't think the staff report included a 1993 survey, which we just recently found. So just to muddy your desk, it might be helpful when we proceed. But Mr. Jett presently has businesses on Route 31 where he rents space, and saw this opportunity and bought as a contract to buy the property, which is the subject matter of this petition, from a receiver who is in control of the property, which obviously is distressed. And so in your packet, you have a statement from the receiver authorizing us to proceed with this application. And so as the chairman indicated, the petitioner is asking to put two businesses on a single address, and the businesses are Sideline Sports. Now, what Sideline Sports is this Sideline, really a internet business where they sell sports paraphernalia through the internet. There'd be a small area in the building that would be storage, and there'd be an office for one individual that would work in there. The rest of the property would be used by Jets Heating and Air, Inc., and the entire business would be moving into downtown. As you're probably familiar with the building, it was the old post office, and then it was, I think, Fox Valley Sash and Door or something like that, but it's been vacant, it's in disrepair. And the plans are to remodel the interior, to remodel the front of the exterior and put an ADA ramp with a railing in it. In addition, if you've been by there recently, the parking lot is in total disrepair. And the plan is to completely redo the parking lot. Mr. Jett and I have been in communication with the neighbor to the east, whose retaining wall supporting his parking and everything seems to be in need of repair, and I've discussed with him, he is planning to repair it. Hopefully we can dovetail the timing of that repair at the time when Mr. Jett completes the improvement of the parking lot, assuming this zoning application is approved. We're here for two reasons. Number one, because we have two businesses on a single address, and number two, because it's in the downtown overlay district, and we're asking that this is really a contractor's building. It's similar to the previous use, but it's a little different in the sense that he will have a retail store for plumbing and heating supplies. So it will draw people into downtown from a retail standpoint, but in addition, his 10 employees will be reporting there on a daily basis and coming to and from there. So it will enhance the neighborhood in that sense. Right now, the preliminary budget is somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000 that he would be putting in the building. We fully expect that the assessed valuation on the building will increase, which will benefit the city. And I believe this is a TIF area.
Yeah.
So it should be helpful for the city in that regard. There has been a discussion that after the parking lot is enhanced, when he's, a retail business is only open so many hours a day and often not on the weekend, it's his intention to make that parking there's a bar and restaurant very approximate to this location just north of him, and other retail uses to the south. So I think we meet the conditions and the standards for this application. Oh, by the way, and this is really not an element of the application, but he doesn't like the background on this proposed sign, but it would be something like this on the building. He has no intention of putting a second sign for Sideline Sports, because as I indicated, that's an internet business. So, if you have any further questions, I would be happy to try them. I should talk to you about, it's his belief, and normally he has one semi that arrives once a month. And the way the parking would be set up, that semi would be able to back into the parking lot, and he unloads the semi with forklift trucks. So it won't inhibit traffic on Green Street or parking on Green Street. He does expect to, once it's clear as to what the city code is regarding fences in the downtown area, he'd like to enhance the north, east, and frontage of the property where fences are permitted, and sort of enhancing the area, dividing it from his neighbor's building.
Okay, Mr. Zank, is it?
Zank.
Zank, thank you very much. Mr. Martin, if you'd be so kind to give us the staff analysis.
Yeah, just to answer your question real quick, Tom, the fences go with the building setback, so there's no setback requirements, so the fences can go, there's no setbacks for the fences either. So, just to clarify that. The requested action is conditional use permit for expanded site plan review in accordance with the downtown overlay district. This is in the overlay district to allow the contractor's office, that's number one, with storage on site. There's not really no storage proposed. Two principal uses, the sideline marketing and Jets Heating and Air are the two uses on one zoning lot, and any other variances to allow the property to develop substantial conforms with the application. The applicant has submitted the application for the two principal uses. The subject property is in the downtown overlay district, which has a approval process for a administrative review as well as an expanded site plan review. This falls under the expanded site plan review, which requires a conditional use permit, which requires a public hearing before this body. And it does so because it doesn't meet all the zoning requirements, one being two principal uses on one zoning lot, and the other being a contractor's office is typically a permitted use in a C5 district, and this property is zone C4. The building in question has been vacant, as the applicant has stated. The property has been in receivership for more than a year. It's a difficult property to fill. In fact, for many reasons, one of the primary reasons is because of its size. It's about 7,000 square feet, and many of the uses that have been proposed require the installation of a sprinkler system. And because of those uses, which a number of people gather are assembly type uses, sprinkler systems are required, and they're very expensive. This type of use which is proposed does not require that. This is a business type use. So this is ideal. The use prior to that was similar, Fox Valley Sash and Door. The building is in pretty good condition, but does need some work. It has a good presence on the street, but it does need a little TLC, if you will. The parking lot is in substantial disrepair. And the retaining wall, again, also is in substantial disrepair. So this use and this proposal would substantially increase the value of that property. It's also in the heart of downtown McHenry. This site is on the route of many of the events which happen in downtown, and improving the property would really help downtown incredibly. It has a prominent street presence. You go by it all the time if you go downtown. So downtown revitalization is a major priority for the city. This is in the core downtown sub-area plan. It's in the core downtown sub-area plan as an area in transition, part of an area in transition. The city's looking to attract different types of uses downtown. As I said, this site's been particularly challenging to fill because of its size. The applicants bring a new business to the city, so it puts people within downtown that will use downtown businesses. It also will bring people downtown to patronize the retail portion of the business. There are, and unlike many businesses downtown, there is parking on site, which is a great benefit as well. And it will be repaired, the parking lot will be fixed up, the building will be cleaned up, the signage will help clean up the property and make it look even better and have a better street presence. So I put several reasons in here of why this proposal has many benefits to the city. More people in the downtown area. It's a new business. It fills a vacant building. It cleans up an eyesore in a prominent downtown location. It draws walk-in traffic, additional activity. It attracts additional investment in the downtown area. It's in with the downtown overlay district, as I stated. The zoning ordinance only allows one principal use. This has two. And I already went through the requirements, the review process. Each application submitted through the downtown overlay district that comes through planning and zoning has to conform with the purpose, intent, and goals criteria for review in the downtown overlay district ordinance. Those criteria are included in the staff report, as you can see. The proposed use in staff's opinion is consistent with the city's core downtown sub-area plan and goals for downtown revitalization. The applicant will also complete facade enhancements consistent with the downtown design guidelines, which are attached to the downtown overlay district ordinance as guidelines, but they are attached to that ordinance. Staff believes the use is compatible and complementary to neighboring uses. It won't have any adverse impacts. Most of the vehicles that the applicant and his employees, they drive their Sprinter type vans. They take the vehicles home at night. They're not trucks. They're just work vehicles. Staff's recommendations approval of the conditional use for an expanded site plan review in accordance with the downtown overlay to allow contractor's office with storage on site, 2 principal uses on 1 zoning lot. Any other variances to allow the property to be developed in substantial conformance with the public hearing application submitted for the property located at 1306 North Green, subject to the conditions that the applicant comply with the downtown design guidelines, utilizing and enhancing the original building elements on the exterior, as well as the parking area, in accordance with the downtown design guidelines. The use of box signs, exposed neon, flashing, and moving signs would be prohibited. Be no loading or unloading on the public right-of-way, meaning Green Street. And staff finds that the application is in conformance with the purpose, intent, goals, and criteria for review in the downtown overlay district ordinance. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Martin, thank you very much. I will open the floor to the commissioners for their questions.
My only question was gonna be about parking, and it's been addressed in the application that it'll be minimal at most, that most of the staff members take their Sprinter vans home. So I was a little concerned about overnight outside parking, but that is addressed.
You mentioned an ADA ramp. It looks to me like there's no steps there anyway, is there?
Well, that sidewalk is in disrepair, so
Oh, okay.
I know they're planning to enhance it. There's an elevation deviation. And so he's just, instead of just fixing the sidewalk, he's planning on creating a ramp to the main entrance.
I think he also wants to put a railing also,
Right.
I believe, adjacent to it, similar to, like they're doing it there. It's
In
not as
the
big
theater.
of a grade difference, but it's kind of a curve enhancement also.
A railing at the entrance? Is that what
No, like, to ramp, as part of the ramp.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's just the entrance.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it's on Green Street and very much welcome.
Thank you.
You mentioned inside sales.
Yes.
So is that gonna be like an over-the-counter sales if somebody comes in and needs a part for their furnace?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's gonna stock furnace parts,
Okay.
filters, things like that.
And also, you mentioned his willingness to allow his parking lot to be used like a Fiesta Days or for, things pertaining to the city. How would that work, heaven forbid, insurance-wise or liability-wise, if in fact something happened on the property? Is Mr. Jett responsible for that? Or?
He'll have property owner's insurance. I mean, my understanding is that you own a piece of property, if somebody wants to park there and it's not prohibited, that the property owner may be responsible for something that happens if the property owner is negligent.
Okay, obviously that's something he would be aware of then.
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Walsh, Ms. Meyer,
I got nothing.
Ms. Miller,
Good.
and Mr. Simon. Okay, well, if there aren't any more questions, we'll close this portion. We will now open the public portion of the meeting. Anybody who wishes to speak on this matter, if you've signed your name and address on the clipboard, you can come up to the podium and tell us what you have to say. This portion will begin at 8:05.
Good evening, my name is William McHenry. I'm an attorney. I'm an adjacent landowner. It's actually 3436 West now. My only concern, and to a certain extent, attorneys, one of us answered it to a certain extent. However, I would be interested to see what the designated number of spots will be in the parking area, since we are taking into consideration the fact that there are going to be semis going in and out, and then we do have the employee trucks, et cetera, that will be there at least part of the day, I would think. And then other than that, my second concern is, in the past, the city of McHenry has been allowed to use that as the parking area as a sort of a holding area for snow removal. And that's been the case for at least 15 to 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. 10 to 15 for sure. And I'm wondering if by fact that'll still be the case with this petition.
Is your question, is parking, how much parking required?
Well, no. How many designated spaces does the petitioner, how many designated spaces will the petitioner provide in that parking area off-street?
I think it's 18 to 20.
Yeah, something like that.
It's about 18 of them.
Okay.
Something like that. And the snow, I can't say. I can't speak for the petitioner. You know, it's not our property.
Right. I'm just saying that has occurred in the past, and there are issues with snow removal. I have piled up in front of my address, and I can only imagine if by chance the city can't use that, and with this petition, that it would be that much more of a problem.
Well, we do have that park right there. So, I mean, obviously we have to figure something out.
Well, plus, I think your building is on a state road, isn't it?
That is correct.
Yeah, so the city's not responsible for the snow removal there.
But in the past, years ago, the city would come by with the front grader and remove it. And unfortunately, that's sort of gone by the wayside, but that's just a side note.
Typically, if we remove from the downtown, we take it from the downtown to the south plant. We don't keep it in the downtown.
Yeah, but, okay, that's fine.
But, yeah.
Okay, that completes mine.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening. Hello. My name is Phil. I own the property at 1309 North Green Street. I was going to purchase that property, and I was required to put in a sprinkler system because it is over 6,000 square feet. In order to do that, I was required to pay for the new water line. So the purpose that I was going to use was I had a company called Direct Buy who was going to warehouse their products and sell them for that building, as you remember. And I've talked to the city council many times about it. This was all brought up to me within days of purchasing the building and closing on it. I was given a shopping list for what I was going to have to do to that building: replace the retaining wall on the east side, replace the fence, repair the one on the north side, repair the driveway. There is no drainage, storm drain on Green Street. I flood because the city already let the bank raise their property behind 1309, 1307. I can't remember what Gianna's is, 1311 or something like that. So the water comes off of Green Street onto my property. That shouldn't happen, but it does. So there's an issue that way. I'm there during the winter. I've owned it since March of last year. I had to restore the building because of the person I bought it from never disclosed at closing that it had a water leak from the renter. I walked in the building and flooded. So I had to go get permits and everything, but I had to bring it up to green code. All the standards. I'm expecting Jet to do the same thing. I don't believe that Green Street needs outside storage. I don't believe he should have trucks coming in and out of there. And another question I'd like to ask is if you guys are gonna let him have his zoning, is he stepping down from being mayor? Because I think there's some conflict in that. It is in a, tax subsidized program for that area. TIF product, TIF area. I own the building. I was never offered any TIF. I did it all myself. Jet has bought the theater in town, has sold it off in pieces. Now he's selling brick pavers engraved to go inside the building for $75. I'd like to know where the sales tax is going from the profit. Is he gonna do the same thing with this building when he finds out he's short on money because I know what it's gonna cost to restore that building because that's what I do for a living? Is he gonna sell it off in pieces? Are we gonna end up with another situation like we already have, or is it gonna get worse? Is he gonna sit without a roof? Because he's gotta go through the roof or fire. I already called the state fire marshal. I mean, I've done my homework on this. I'm very disappointed how it's going. I'm disappointed in the city how it's going. I bought property on Bow Valley Road and was told you can't change the zoning. So I handed the property over to the Holy Apostle. My dad brought us to this town in 1961. This is our town. If you let this go through, I already talked to Lisa Madigan. She said, this is wrong. So he's trying to do that property, changing the zoning in a C4, it's been C4, leave it as C4. The building's gotta come down, it's gotta come down. And then you're talking about changing the bank property into a gas station. The old bank, McHenry State Bank, tearing the building down. Why don't you guys go down to Wheeling Town Center and see what they're doing in their downtown district? How they're trying to bring, business back. Having restaurants and everything else. We don't need, if you were trying to bring restaurants and people walking around town, he doesn't need to have his little place of business there. You guys don't follow the zoning rules because I live, I had another property which I was at the city council meeting last week and arguing about, and it's still going on today. At 1410 River Road. So I'm very disappointed if you guys go ahead with this. You need to really look at it. There's no storm. The water service is a connector line from 120 over to Pearl Street. It would have to be upgraded. The guy that has the restaurant, and I wasn't gonna put a restaurant in there, and everybody keeps saying I was, the restaurant was gonna go in my 1306 building. Never in that building. It was designed almost to what he was doing, except I had one use. Not multiple use. There's gonna be no outside storage. So, I have to look at that. I'm selling, I'm trying to sell my property because of the cost that I had to incur to upgrade my building to standards. When I worked out the numbers on redoing that building, I was at over $450,000 to get that bank, or to get the post office up to code. Not 100,000, not 200,000. I have that already in Green Street, my building. And that was a little building, not even 2,000 square feet. That's all I gotta say about it.
I have a question for clarification, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What building are you talking about that you own that gets flooded? Can you
13
locate it for me?
1309.
What's it near?
What's it near? Letizia and Nagana, the McHenry Dental.
Okay.
Yeah, you can watch the water come right
I
over
know
my
where it is.
driveway.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Yeah. And when they push the snow, they fill my driveway because they used to haul it and move it away. They've created, an ice hazard on the sidewalk. The kids have to go to school that way.
Sounds like a lot of problems in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Thanks for your help.
All right.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this matter? If not, we'll close the portion of the public hearing at 8:12. Any additional comments from any of the commissioners? If not, I would look for a motion.
I'll make a motion. Let's see if I'm on the right page here. Staff recommends approval of a conditional use permit to allow the outdoor storage of, oh, I'm on the wrong one. Excuse me. Is it page 6 by any chance?
Yeah.
Okay. Approval of conditional use permit for an expanded site plan review in accordance with the downtown overlay district to allow a contractor's office with storage on site and 2 principal uses on 1 zoning lot and any other variances to allow the property to be available in substantial conformance with the public hearing application submitted for the subject property located at 1306 North Green Street, subject to the following conditions. Conditions 1, 2, and 3. And what else have I got? Is that it?
And that all the, that the application is in conformance with the purpose and
Oh,
intent
okay,
goals
yeah.
and criteria for the downtown.
Staff finds the application is in conformance with the purpose and intent, goals, and criteria for review in the DOD ordinance.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Meyer, seconded by Commissioner Doherty. Are there any questions or comments? If not, Clerk Wolf, if you'd be so kind, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Sabota,
Yes.
Commissioner Thacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, Mr. Snake, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, John.
At this time, I'd like to close file Z918. 15. Consideration of a consistency policy regarding the city's comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Mr.
Mark?
Chairman. So last time in discussing the update of the comprehensive plan and the development and the ordinances, we talked about concurrency and consistency policies. And just as an update for the existing land use map with all the boundary agreements and all the transportation plan and all the other elements that we were going to include on that map should be done by December 1st. So the plan is to bring that to the December meeting and kind of begin the update of the future land use map by section, or kind of discuss how we're going to update the future land use map. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. This is a proposed consistency policy that is basically when you bring forward a zoning map amendment, rezoning a property from RS3 to C4 or one zoning category to another, not a variance, not a conditional use, but a map amendment, that it just says that it should be consistent with your comprehensive plan, but it also says that some places have gotten in trouble with having a consistency policy that's strictly consistent, saying, well, yeah, this is consistent with our comprehensive plan, period. So what I'm suggesting is this policy says, you know, if we rezone a property and we think it's consistent with our updated comprehensive plan, that's fine. But we can also say it's consistent with our comprehensive plan, it's consistent with our other policies or documents that we may have adopted as a city. Economic development plan, or our economic development strategy, or our, you know, other documents that we could reference as part of a statement that's adopted when we adopt a change in zoning map amendment. Does that make sense to everyone?
Would that count in future land use map as well?
I'm sorry?
Would that be like future land use maps would be a reference for that as well?
Yeah, so if you change your future land use map, I'm suggesting that that you adopt a statement saying this is why we changed the zoning from RS3 to C4. X, Y, and Z are the reasons.
Okay.
So, but instead of saying it's just because it's not consistent with our comp plan, it might be more than that. It might be not consistent with our comp plan. It could be not consistent with other plans or policies or documents that maybe that the subdivision ordinance, zoning ordinance, other plans or policies or documents that this commissioner council has adopted that you referenced in a statement when that map amendment occurs. And we, you know, would give you suggestions as staff to make that, you know, statement when a map amendment occurs. Now, this also says that if you choose to make a change in we adopt a future land use map and it passes, and you say, well, we get a request that says that's not consistent with that future land use map, and you agree that it's not consistent, but it's a good thing to be not consistent, and we can support it, that we should change our future land use map to reflect that new change, and not leave it out there hanging, so 5 years from now, that map is like it is now, and has business park zoning up north, or business park as a future land use up north. So I'm not trying to overly complicate things. I'm trying to make it so our documents remain consistent for the foreseeable future, and then if something changes, that we don't wait 5 years to change the document. With computers and GIS, it's not hard to update. We do it with zoning maps every year, so we could do it once a year with our future land use map. I'm not saying let's do it the next day, let's do it once a year. You know, so our future land use map remains consistent for the, you know, if there's a change that's made. So that's kind of what this statement boils down to.
I had a question on the comprehensive development plan. Let's say the city did one in the year 2000. Now, is there a legal, what's the word I'm looking for? Do you have to legally follow that, or when we make a plan like that, couldn't we put some wiggle room in it, saying that, okay, no, seriously, okay, it's 2015 now, the plan hasn't been updated in 15 years, somebody's coming in for this, instead of going through all this stuff here, couldn't we have some wiggle room saying that, okay, this is just a shot in the dark plan?
Well, that's why it's a policy. That's why it's a policy document.
But it sounds like these plans are causing a lot of problem when you try and rezone stuff.
Well, no, I mean, we're updating our plan now because it needs to be updated.
I understand that.
It hasn't been updated since 2008. The plan really needs to be consistent with the zoning ordinance, which is the regulatory means by which you enforce your comprehensive plan.
Right.
Yes, they do cause problems, and no matter how good you write it, somebody is going to come in the next day and say and go, oh, you're going to go like this.
Okay.
Well, and case law says that, you know, a comp plan is just a guide. You're not,
Right.
It's not set in stone, you're not legally bound to, of course, follow it in every instance, but it can help you in certain situations, you know, like if you need to, if somebody's challenging a zoning action that you took, and if your comp plan supports the zoning action, that's something that a court would look at.
Okay.
So it'll help you
But by
I
the
wouldn't
same
say
token, would it
I
hurt you if
I don't know that it would
showed
actually
a
hurt
different
you.
zoning?
I don't know that it would actually hurt you, but it would help you.
Okay.
I've used it in an eminent domain situation where we wanted to put through a road, and the property owner wasn't gonna sell us the property, we needed to take it. Before I did that, we amended our comp plan to show that right of way was there.
Okay.
Because then if we get into a fight about it, it shows that we had intended for a road to be there.
Okay.
I
Just
mean,
trying to make it more flexible.
well, this, and I would reiterate what Kelly, I mean, since I've been here, this does not, this is for the bad, not the good. I would say more, I mean, we were sued by Title Max. I mean, that was one, and it helps you more when somebody takes action against you.
Okay.
Then, our state enabling legislation for planning and zoning is minimal. I mean,
Well, in your home rule.
Right.
So now those statutes don't even apply.
They don't even apply because
Yeah.
we're home rule.
Mhm.
Okay.
so I
There's a lot
kind
of
of,
leeway.
So we can tell everybody to go home.
but I'm thinking more of if somebody, and people might say, well, who's gonna sue us? Well, it's
The
happened.
people ever
Yeah.
can sue.
But I think the biggest thing about it though is by having the consistency plan and also doing the updates that we need to do, this commission then has something as a guide.
Right.
So when we are looking at things coming to the table, that's what we're judging from. And unfortunately, we're at 2008 right now and we need to bring all of it up to date. And then when we make these decisions, we're looking at current information. And like Doug said, if we do a future land use map once a year, now we're always looking at current stuff. We can make those changes and be a little more flexible and then say, all right,
Should be.
let's swing another direction. Let's go somewhere else.
I mean, the reason why I put it into other documents is I read about a state that had just consistent with the comp plan, and they got in trouble with case law because the court said you're too, it was too narrow, but then when they broadened it to other documents, they had more wiggle room. Yeah, I mean, it's more, it's just good practice. It seems kind of overkill in a way, but it's good practice to do.
Well, it's been 9 years. I mean, if you look at this thing every year from now on, I mean, it might take a half an hour meeting, might take 3 hours next year to look at it because not much has changed. But a lot changes in 9, 10 years.
Well, right, and we're doing this now, but we're not gonna do this every year. Like, this is an update that we're doing for the next.
Well, you can update it, but I mean, you can touch on it every year. You can
Yes.
go back and look at the plan and say,
Yeah.
okay, everything's good this year, let's just go.
And that's a good point, because we have not really touched this document, this future land use map, we have not touched it in 12 years.
Right. You think it is, yeah.
So ideally,
I have shoes that are longer than that.
You have to be
Actually,
following the ointment, it goes so long.
well, it's staff time, and literally I hate to say this, the last future land use map, we literally cut and pasted. I mean, our map was not GIS, was not computer digitized until 3 or 4 years ago.
So now that change becomes easier, right?
That change becomes
Now it's
extremely,
easier to update it because it's not cut and
Well, like
pasted.
George said, every year you can look at it,
Yeah.
hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, that was easier, so.
so when we met last time, we talked about that, remember, with the map. I talked to Chad, he said, so we're gonna have the boundary agreements when they expire, we're gonna have the transportation plan, the bike path plan, everything's gonna be on a map. So when we look at future land use maps, you have everything, and Chad said, I can get this done in a couple weeks. But that's the beauty of computers.
So Doug, the goal is the December meeting. Currently, we don't have anything on the agenda.
Right.
But then hopefully we'll be able to actually take our first pass at seeing those maps in December.
Yeah, so I will have the beautiful map.
On that wall.
Well, no, it'll be in front of you.
Well, a big one.
She wants a lot.
No, you will have a large colored map with the boundary agreements and the, And we will deliver it.
So we're gonna put you out there on that table.
You can
Yes.
sit there and look at your big man.
So, and then the goal would be, how do we want to divide the city in terms of looking at future land use?
So if we're looking, say we want to widen the road within the next 10 years, so would we say, well, these homes or these businesses, you know, they would be struck or something on
Well-
that, or what?
Well, we would have the existing transportation plan on there, because we have a transportation plan.
I think ultimately, Joe, it's really what do we want those uses to be?
Right.
In those districts.
Yeah, so that would be on an overlay of the transportation, so
Yes.
that would show where the present roadway is and where that business or house is kind of in the way.
Well, no, the road, so the transportation plan would show kind of like Curran Road would show as kind of a arterial road, as opposed to, what street do you live on? Glenbrook would show just as a residential street.
Okay.
So it would be colored differently.
It won't have the, future expansion plans from the state won't be on it.
Right.
It'll be current what's here today, but then as we look at those future uses, we might say, well, maybe that's something that needs to happen in the future to fulfill what we want that future area to be.
But we'll have an idea of where those future road expansions are going to occur.
Nice.
I think it's an awesome project that we will see all the inconsistencies that still exist that haven't been addressed, either just through oversight or amendments. And I look forward to having that ability to clean it up, because the inconsistencies are what cause us great grief.
And actually, the other thing we talked about was cleaning up the land uses, so what's on the ground today is there. I also asked him to, the other thing which we talked about, putting a park as a park, a school as a school, and not an institutional category.
So subdividing.
Yeah, so separate categories, so we know they're gonna be different. So the existing land uses should really be truly what is there. We may find a couple mistakes, but they should be pretty consistent. And then we're also gonna put a farmland and a vacant, because those are kind of two separate things. So it'll be somewhat different.
So would we take a property like Water Tower Marina, say, and this group would say, hey, what do we want to do with a parcel like that?
Yes, and say, do you want it commercial, residential, do you want it mixed use, do you want it, but we would divide the city up first into probably 4 sectors and look at sectors of the city, but then we'd go property by property, basically, yeah.
And decide what that looks like, and then also the pedestrian walkway, the bike path, pace, and looking at what that route looks like in town, to make those decisions after we can look at what that really looks like. What does the downtown really look like? How should that be structured? So those are all the things that, is gonna make this group's job easier when we're looking at all of that current.
I believe the pace routes will be on there, I think. I think I asked them to put that on there too.
We'll all agree on one thing, and then someone will come in and say, no.
Well, until
Well,
we
then
see
we
it,
have,
we won't know.
well, then we'll have a public hearing, and then that's when that's the part that you want people to give feedback on.
Got it.
Give you a heads up.
Since you put that in your newsletter and on Facebook, have you had any public response?
Well, I didn't do that yet, because you wanted me to be careful about that, so I did not.
I saw it somewhere that we were working on mapping. Is that internal?
Oh, yeah, it's mostly been internal, but I think we want to start getting people, we want to start advertising and get people. Yeah, because now we're really going to start looking at land uses, yes.
And future use. I mean,
Yeah.
You look at the little map, and there's a lot of space there that we need to look at.
Yeah, so we can go 1.5 miles outside, and that boundary, although will not change much, will change somewhat So I think the other thing we probably want to do in December is kind of lay out maybe a public process for the public, having either a workshop or different types of public input. Because I think we're at that point.
Now, the other thing you're gonna have on there are the boundary agreements, right?
Yes.
What do you tackle first? The city or the boundary agreements? Or, I guess
We do them all at the same time.
Well, I think, Joe, the idea is cut it into 4 squares, the city into 4 pieces, and then we start with 1. And so whatever those boundary agreements touch that corner, whichever corner we start with, that's the one we'll look at first. And I think ultimately we do have some that are going to expire quicker than others, so that might drive our decision to work on that quadrant first.
And I don't know if you heard, I think we probably want to discuss the public input process at the December meeting too, because I think we really want to start getting the word out there. When we decide, we should probably cut into 4 sectors and then kind of solidify the public input process at the December meeting and then really, of course it's been on the agenda, but I can notify, I can get the word out.
I didn't know if one corridor was hotter than the other one.
Well, I think
I think we would
the
decide
boundary,
that,
yeah.
those agreements that are going to expire, I think that's probably our driver for the first round. Because there are some that are shorter term than others.
What's the first one? Is it Johnston?
I believe,
McCollum Lake.
Yeah, I believe McCollum Lake. I think it might have been in McCollum Lake and Johnson.
Is there a developed timeline for the completion of this?
No, but we want to keep moving.
Right.
Ideally we want to.
9 years.
What did you just say, Rich?
I said less than 9 years.
But Bob Butch is still on the commission.
Well, yes, I'll probably be removed within the next month or two.
I think once we start the process, we'll find that it moves along fairly fast.
Well, it'd be nice to get the map done and then at least look at the comp plan. And if we don't update the entire thing, at least update critical sections with that. Remember I gave you that sheet? And correlate the text with the map. I'm not as concerned with the ordinances as the text in the map at this point.
Are we going to ease into this?
One piece at a
Open
time.
spaces to more densely populated places? Just kind of.
We're going to the heaviest densely populated places first.
Are we?
No, I don't know.
Dip your toe before you jump.
Yeah. We've just been kind of going as we go, but we're there now. So that's kind of that. So
Do you need anything for that?
no, I just wanted, and all this stuff, I'm just kind of collecting, and I haven't presented anything formally to the city council. All this has to go through a public hearing, obviously, but I just want, and if you read this and you go, you wake up and you go, this was really stupid, just let me know, and, but I just want you to know the thought process behind it.
We'll let you know, Doug.
Okay, thanks, appreciate that.
So then December the 14th will be our next meeting.
Yes, which is a Thursday. And I apologize about the packets. We will make sure they are delivered. Did you get a packet, Kelly?
That happened.
Was it mailed? You get it in the mail?
Yes, it is. Oh, I don't know. I didn't
So you get
pay
the email.
attention.
Did you
There
just
was an
print it?
envelope.
None of us got.
Oh, you got an envelope?
So Crystal Lake got theirs.
How does that happen?
There.
Let's not talk about it.
Did you get a packet?
No.
Okay, you probably saw it.
I thought we were getting one, whether they bring them by drones now?
No, we mailed them last Friday.
Last Friday you mailed it?
Yeah, nobody got them.
The checks
We'll get it
in the mail.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mine was there Monday.
Really?
I had it Monday.
Oh my God.
Okay, one of the first things we're gonna do on the land use map is a result of the post office.
Maybe go back to the old post office.
That's gonna be, I'm sorry, that's gonna be occupied now.
All right, if that's it, then I'll look for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
And a second.
Side.
Commissioner Miller and Commissioner Doherty. Yeah, it's 8:37.
Are we gonna vote on it or no?
Oh, jeez.
Any opposed?
Anyone opposed?
Clerk, please call the roll.
Sorry, Roger, you're new at this.